Van Show. He's a monster on a mission to talk to lots of folks. Van Show, Van Show, Van Show, Van Show.
Hey everybody, it's the Van Show. Well, we're so excited to have you here, and today we've got a really special guest. Today we have Tommy Greenwald. Say hi, Tommy.
Hey, what's up, man?
Well, we're so happy to have you, man.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So we want to get to know you. So first
Absolutely.
of all, tell us where you're from.
I'm from Connecticut, about an hour outside of New York City, and I've been commuting to New York by train for my day job for about 30 years.
Wow. You're an artist, a writer, in fact.
Yep.
So we'd like to hear, how did you get into writing?
Well, I was a writer of different kinds of things for most of my life, most of my adult life. I've been a songwriter. I wrote a musical called John and Jen, which still gets done around the country, which is great.
Cool.
I've written some pieces for newspapers, humor pieces mostly. But it wasn't until my own three sons, Charlie, Joe, and Jack, decided that they were non-readers that I started to think about trying to write my own children's book that might get kids like them, kids who don't like to read books. And as I said, their names are Charlie, Joe, and Jack, so I came up with a character, Charlie Joe Jackson, because Charlie, Joe, Jack are my sons, Charlie, Joe, Jack sons. And I wrote a series of books about this kid, Charlie Joe Jackson, and his incredibly long, difficult efforts to avoid reading, when if he had just read the books he was supposed to read in the first place, it would have been a lot easier. So that's what got me into into writing children's books.
I love how you're like, my kids don't like to read. Let me write a book about
Yeah.
a kid who doesn't like to read with their names. Oh, that's so perfect.
Right? The first book was called Charlie Joe Jackson's Guide to Not Reading. So I figured it would attract kids like them to read a book about how to avoid reading other books.
Aha.
Sneaky, right?
That is super sneaky.
Super sneaky.
That's,
Yep.
I made this, it's like hiding the broccoli in the cheese sauce.
Exactly right.
So, now you write some sports books as well.
I
What got
do.
you into sports writing?
Well, I loved sports as a kid. I played sports, and all my kids played sports. And as much as I loved watching them play, and it's still one of my best memories, there are things about youth sports and how intense they've become and how much pressure the kids are under, both that they put on themselves, but also their parents, their coaches, their travel programs, if they're in travel teams or elite teams. And it's become a really big business, and I thought it was worth exploring both what's great about youth sports, but also what is not so great about youth sports. Because I don't want to say they're bad, because I think they're incredible, but I think there are issues that should be explored.
Absolutely. I mean, so you've brought a couple books with you here.
Yeah, this book, Game Changer, is my first book that isn't a joke a minute. It's very serious about a kid who gets injured playing football, and then while he's lying in the hospital bed recovering, everybody around him tries to figure out what happened on the football field that day. It's kind of a mystery. That came out a couple years ago and was on the Lone Star list for readers. And then this new one, which is a first in a series called The Good Sports League, is for slightly younger kids. It's a more lighthearted look at youth sports and how they need to be fun. Kids play sports. They don't work sports, they play. So let's maintain the sense of play when we are kind of shepherding our kids along. And you kids out there, when you're out there running around on the field, remember, it's to have fun, it's to get exercise, it's to be with your friends. And if you win, great. If you lose, not quite as great, but still good. Everybody wins and loses in life, right? And you got to learn how to win and lose with grace and good humor. And so I just want to make sure kids remember, and almost as importantly, the adults around them remember that the name of the game is to have fun.
I wanted to ask you too, you also do theater, is that right?
I do. I wrote a musical, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, called John and Jen. But I also do advertising for Broadway shows as my day job, which I've done for 30 years. I do it part-time now, so I can concentrate a lot on writing books for kids. But I still love my day job, which is to take plays and musicals that are running on Broadway and advertise them to people so that they come to New York City and enjoy the magic of a Broadway show.
And do you get free tickets to all those shows?
I usually do, not always, but I've seen many shows. And it's kind of like every job where you're doing something that sounds incredibly fun, But once you do it over and over and over and over again, it becomes a little less fun. I even
Sure.
think if I worked in an ice cream store, I might eventually, it's hard to imagine, but I think I might get sick of ice cream if I was doing it every day.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a great job. But sometimes I have to go to a Broadway show and I'm like, oh, do I really have to go tonight and get home at midnight? And, you know, that does happen. But I'm lucky. It's a really wonderful job.
Yeah, and can you tell us what's one of your favorite shows you've seen
Of
of all time, the past 30
Jeez.
years?
Well, if I'm going to be predictable, I would say Hamilton.
Okay.
Because Hamilton is an incredible show. If I'm going to be slightly less predictable, there's this musical called The Full Monty, which is a great musical. And I also, Van, you will really appreciate this.
Yeah?
I did the advertising for Avenue Q on Broadway.
Yeah.
And
The Puppet Pals.
that was a puppet musical, and boy, oh boy, was it funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I advise you and your friend Fernie here and everybody else who can gather up to go see Avenue Q next time it's in town.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I guess it tours sometimes, huh?
Yeah, and there's puppet discounts too.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you
goodness.
should be able to get in relatively cheaply.
Hot dog. I
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, good.
Well, cool. Well, so I got one last thing.
Yeah.
So you're a Junior Library Guild author.
I love that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had a question about the book.
Yeah.
Ultimate Goal. The
Yeah.
Ultimate Goal.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of nicknames in the Ultimate Goal.
there are.
So they wanted to know if you were a soccer star, what would your nickname be?
That's a really good question. I did play soccer all through high school, and I loved it. Maybe Sneaky Speedy,
Sneaky Speedy.
because I kind of don't, especially now, but even back in the day, I didn't necessarily look like the fastest guy out there. But when I got my jets going, I could move. I could move. And
I love that.
just quickly, you'd like this. This is my new book, The Rescues, which doesn't come
Oh,
out till
yeah.
the fall. But it's about dogs, and you had asked me about dogs earlier.
Oh, yes.
And
Now
it's-
this is not the vampire dog book.
No, this is a dog about two dogs who get rescued from a shelter.
Oh.
And one has one eye, one has 3 legs. And their names are Moose and Bear, and they're a little confused because they're dogs, but one thinks he's a moose and the other thinks she's a bear.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I imagine that leads to some hijinks.
Hijinks of the highest order, Van.
Tommy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Van. It was a blast. And Fernie, nice to meet you. You're a little quiet back there, but I get it. Second banana and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, it's early. Yeah,
it is early. It is early.
Fernie was up late last night.
Uh-oh, really? Yeah, your eyes are bloodshot. I'm not going to lie. Goodbye.
Bye.
Van Show.